Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. If you are having trouble getting found in the digital world with everybody else out there, you'll need to call Drago at Oak City Tech. They will help you design the website. They'll help your SEO rankings, and they'll do email campaigns for you, graphics, content, anything you need. But you're going to need a trusted advisor to be found out in the digital world. And if you go to oakcitytech.com, they can help you out. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Welcome to Triangle BNI. Each week, we bring you small business success stories from BNI. And if you're not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area. Every week, about 40 chapters and almost 600 members get together, and our sole purpose is to help each other grow their business. And our small business success story today is Carol Komondy with U.S. Health Advisors. Carol, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks, Mike.
Glad to have you here. We are in late September, which means open enrollment on the horizon. What kind of tips, what kind of things can we share with people about what they need to be thinking about as this open enrollment comes upon us?
So interesting that you should say that today, because I just did a post on Facebook about people who don't have health insurance because they think they can't afford it. And if you can't afford it privately, you can afford it on the marketplace, because there are subsidies that are put in place for people who aren't making enough to pay for their own health insurance. And a lot of people don't realize that there really isn't anybody who falls through that gap. So explore those options with a trusted advisor, someone who will help you find whether it's a private or whether it's through the marketplace. Find something so that you're not going without any coverage.
I saw that post this morning, and I know that's a huge topic in general, especially in an election year. But who would people call to start that conversation?
Well, so of course I'm going to say me, and I wouldn't say it about every agent, because unfortunately everyone's not selling from the heart, for lack of a better term. But, my goal is always just let me educate you on what options are out there and available. Let me help you see what those 5 different choices or 4 different choices may be, and help point you in a direction of something that's going to help you have coverage rather than nothing at all.
Can this help people that are employed and unemployed?
I help everybody, even if they're employed and they have coverage with an employer, but they can't afford to put the rest of the family on it. There's options. There are always different avenues. There are even people who I will direct to a share plan, believe it or not, because if we've gone through every other avenue and that's the only way you're going to afford to have something in place, it's better than nothing, because nothing ultimately results in a GoFundMe page.
I saw your post this morning on Facebook, and that triggered a couple of the questions we're going to talk about, because a lot of people, you're right, we assume things and they assume things, and not all of those are true about what they can afford and what they should get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, so the case in point today was, a friend on Facebook whose significant other had a pretty significant accident, and is recovering, and he'll be fine, but it's the cost of the emergency room, the surgeries, everything else that is now there, and they're looking at thousands of dollars that now have to be paid. And the medical expenses are, I think, the number one thing that causes bankruptcy, and people don't realize how easy it happens. It happened to a client of mine, with her 19-year-old son, who ended up with an abscess, and in the emergency room, $20,000 later, he has that bill. Now he has coverage, but he didn't. And thankfully they came to me, and I got him a policy that was perfectly affordable for them to be able to do. That's what people they don't look. They think that everything the marketplace has to offer is all there is, and it's too expensive, and the deductibles are too high, and they don't explore the options. And that's all I say. As I said to one of my friends who posted a response on that comment on Facebook, that she's looked and everything's too expensive. And I called her out because she's never spoken to me about it. So she hasn't really looked.
And a lot of times it's education for you first and foremost with a potential client, isn't it?
It's always education. It's not even sometimes. I never go into an application for health insurance without having explained every option that they have available.
Can you help people outside of North Carolina?
Yes, thankfully, I am with a company that can write in 31 of the continental United States. And it doesn't stop there, because not only are we able to supply insurance for those 31 states, the coverage works in all 50 states. So we have network providers throughout the United States.
And not to get political here, because I don't want to, but the Affordable Care Act has been made I want to say a football for some people, but I don't think all the information's out there about what that can provide people, because I think people take it hostage to prove a point, whichever side they're on.
Well, it definitely true. And as someone in the industry, and someone who has a history of having been a small business owner, my husband and I have bought our health insurance for the past 30 years as a family of four, because he owned businesses, I owned businesses. We always had to get our own coverage. So I have watched those changes over the years. That was what caused me to want to get into health insurance, because I said, gosh, small business owners and individuals need to see this company and what we are bringing to the market, because it is very well geared to people who think they don't have options, and the marketplace is too expensive and they don't have a group policy. And we actually have rounded it out. So there are other options out there and available for people. And the marketplace, you take one look at it and you say, well, I can't afford those deductibles, so why am I going to spend that much per month on coverage that I can't afford the deductibles on? There are reasons why I would say to people, let's look at that marketplace. If you can get a subsidy from the government, I don't want to get into the politics of it and where that's going to end up. But for right now, you're still qualifying. If you're making as an individual under $50,000 a year, you're still qualifying for subsidies. And it only gets, the numbers go up if you're a family of two or a family of three or a family of four. But let's look at them and see if that's an option. And if not, and even if it's an option, unless someone's paying for it for you, I am going to be the next best option. We come in better priced than any marketplace if you have to pay full price on the marketplace. And we don't have annual deductibles that you have to meet. The company, US Health Group, has actually taken a different approach, a very innovative approach to health insurance. So you actually get benefits that you see. So you see your policy and your premiums working for you every time you're using them. I had a client who actually is so excited, he won't stop telling me every time I see him, I got a check for going to the doctor for my wellness visit. I've never gotten paid to go for a wellness visit. So it's nice. It feels good. And I love what I'm doing because I get to help people every single day find coverage that they didn't realize was available.
And tell me again how much it costs to talk to you about that, Carol?
Nothing, absolutely nothing. And I love educating. I don't know why, I just love talking to people. So even I helped a young girl figure out that she actually was qualified for Medicaid, and she's still singing my praises because that's what I do. I help you figure out what's going to be the best avenue. So hopefully she's not going to be on Medicaid forever. She's a small business owner trying to make her way and, earn more money. So she'll get to the point where she'll have to pay for her own. And I'm going to be her first stop because I helped her the first time figure out that she didn't have to pay for it. And I'm going to help her with a policy that's going to cover her fabulously at a very low price. We come in almost 50% lower than most, somewhere between 30 and 50, depending on your coverage, but with more benefits added in. I put dental in, I put vision in, I put other policies in, and still come out with a better price. So it's just a win-win. And I get to show people, and I'm not selling them. I'm helping them decide which option is going to work best for them. So
Carol is in BNI chapter RD20. It's called Bridge to Success. They meet Tuesday mornings at 8:30 in Mebane. Right now, obviously, everything's on Zoom, but if you're in the Mebane, Hillsborough area, sometimes Chapel Hill, can we throw a blanket
well,
over all that? They can come see you
what
guys?
what I love about Bridge to Success is that we're bridging the triad to the triangle. So we
Nice.
go all the way Alamance into Chapel Hill, Orange County. We are pulling from every direction. Our new realtor in the seat for real estate. She is actually, forgive me, Felicia, but she is somewhere, Wake Forest, Wake County, somewhere. But she's coming to the table with a team. She has a realtor in Greensboro who's going to be helping her show when the listings are further west. And she's got people. She just came to the table fully, with that team approach of this is how I'm going to help my BNI with any closings, anything we have that comes. And that's what BNI is all about. It's really that, we're a team approach. So, she came with the answers to people who were saying, well, you live kind of far. Are you going to make it when we start opening back up? And she answered it perfectly, because sure, it's one day that you're going to come 8:30 in the morning to wherever we're at that point in Orange County on the Alamance line. But, come to that event and know that she has the means to still be able to work clients in all of the different areas. So I feel the same way about it. When I'm there, I'm not limited. I'm not limited to a place in North Carolina. I'm not limited anywhere. So right now, my office is down in Raleigh. I live up in Leesburg. I'll go to Greensboro if I have to meet somebody there. So I like that bridge to, the triad to the triangle. It's a perfect segue for how I want to, work BNI and help as many people as possible with that sales force that I get with BNI.
And you and I are in crowded fields. There's a lot of people do what you do. There's a lot of people do what I do. Go ahead.
Well, because Steve just said the other day on the speed networking BNI on Friday, and I've always known this, but I never thought about it the way he presented it. If the ice cream place opens up right next to your ice cream place, it's just bringing more people to you. So my philosophy has always been, I want all of my fellow U.S. health agents to be in a BNI, because the more we're out there, the more people are going to say, oh, yeah, I have a policy with U.S. Health. They're fabulous. You got to talk to my agent. Oh, no, I got my own agent. So it'll be that friendly competition of, I just want more people to see what we have to offer. So the competition's great. I love that we're in a saturated, or not saturated, but where there are a lot of health and life insurance agents, not just U.S. Health. There's a lot of competition, but I know that I'm coming straight from the heart to put you in a better place. So I'm not worried about my competition. Talk to all my competition and then come back and talk to me again. Talk to me first, talk to me second, doesn't really matter, but make sure you talk to me and be honest and open about what they told you, because I'll tell you whether they're shooting it straight or not. One of my biggest, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm honest to a fault. Like, I don't know how to lie. So I sometimes don't deliver perfectly, but I still am going to shoot it straight. So you're going to understand what those options are. Even if your best friend is trying to sell you a policy, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with that policy.
We are here with Carol Komondy, U.S. Health Advisor. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. If you need help again in the digital world, folks, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of good messages to get across. You need to do it right. So go to oakcitytech.com. Let them know what you're looking for. I know they can help you. So earlier, Carol, you mentioned your husband, Mike, and I always like asking people on the show, how did you and Mike meet? And do you both tell the story the same way?
Oh, definitely. We sure do. And it's funny because that's Mike's first question to every single couple that we ever meet. We met bowling and we were on opposing teams. He was on a team with some friends that worked for him because he was a Dunkin' Donuts franchisee. And I was on a team with 3 guys that I grew up with. My parents owned a bowling alley. It was not their bowling alley. We were in a different bowling alley. And so the gentleman that was on Mike's team had pointed me out to Mike saying, man, whatever, she's hot, look at her, check her out. And Mike was like, yeah, she's probably married to one of those 3 guys she's bowling with. So that was probably September. And then come October, we finally actually bowled against each other and started talking. And it was truly whirlwind. It just went from our first date, our first conversation, to the first date the next day. And then I don't think there was a day from that point on that we didn't see each other. And we were already consolidating checkbooks in 30 days and knew we were getting married. There was our first conversation on the phone, 3 hours long. We already knew we were meant to be. But we were older, so we were both in our later 20s, so it just made, it just made sense. There was no beating around the bush.
So who was the better bowler?
Oh gosh, me. So he'll say I was sitting there drinking beer, studying biochemistry, and just throwing strikes. I would go back, sit down, and they'd say, okay, Roll, you're up. And I'd go, my nickname was Roll, R-O-L, the short part of Carol. And so I would go up, throw a strike, go sit back down. So yes, he actually is the better bowler now, though. So interestingly enough, every time we go, he beats me now.
Was there a bowling theme at the wedding or the rehearsal dinner?
No. Should have been, but no, not at all.
Do the kids bowl at all, or did you get them bowling early in their life?
Yes. Yes. So I'm laughing, I should share. My memory when I talk about bowling is I'm a great bowler and always have been. I still am. I can still just go and do it. It's like riding a bike. You don't ever really forget, but I'm left-handed and both of our kids are right-handed. So, and our son tends to be very competitive. So he would just get mad. He couldn't get the hang of it. I think still to this day, if he listens to me, he'll get mad. He still can't really get the hang of bowling, but he is such an avid sportsman that bowling is probably the least of his concerns, but it frustrates him because he's so good at everything. So we, on Sundays, have been playing a game called pétanque. So it's bocce in French. Okay, so it's the same idea as bocce. And Donald came with us last time, our son, and it's a couple next door on the lake that plays. And so we brought Donald, and he's just a ringer. Like, he just gets it. Anytime you put a club, a ball, anything in his hands, he gets it, except bowling. For whatever reason, bowling just doesn't work with Donald.
Where might he have gotten that competitive streak from?
Oh gosh, well, I'm one of 10, so it's an innate thing for me. As much as I like to say I'm not competitive at all, I am.
So if people hear a slight difference in our accents, Carol is not from Raleigh, originally from New Jersey, but you've been down here long enough to appreciate our Southern lifestyle, correct?
Oh, you're never taking me back to New Jersey kicking and screaming. I'm not going. I love the South. I love the people. I love the slowness. I love that we don't rush. We meet people and we get to spend time and just get to know them. And I guess that's why I love doing health insurance when I'm educating, because I get to take time to know people. And I had one client, I actually had to call him back and tell him how my son was doing. And he's been telling me how his mother's doing, because we just started a relationship.
When you and Mike first moved down here, how many times did you get asked, so where are you from?
Oh, I still get asked all the time. So now my thing is that thanks to COVID, I'm losing my Southern. I was working on my Southern drawl because I was talking with my Southern friends more often. So I, get a little Southern in there. And I've lost it thanks to COVID, because my Southern friends aren't coming to hang out with me right now.
When you go back to visit New Jersey, does a little bit of an accent you picked up here travel, or do you bring
Always.
more New Jersey back?
No, I bring the Southern up. I try to bring as much love and slowness and concern as I can back up to Jersey.
So when and how is it appropriate to word to use y'all up in New Jersey?
Y'all better come visit soon. That's exactly what Mike's always saying, that y'all better get in the car and come visit. We invited everybody down.
You got room for them?
We do have room for them. Yes.
And
I'm one of 10, so we'll fit you somehow, some way. Just like my mother used to make dinner for 12 people, and our friends were always allowed to come. I don't know how she fed us. I have no idea. I really do believe she was creating Jesus's miracle of the fish in the kitchen every time she had to have extra people at the table. I don't know. It worked.
So at the dinner table, first of all, where are you in the order of kids?
I am number 8 of 10.
And was there a pecking order at the dinner table after mom and dad?
Well, no, I mean, I always sat relatively close to mom. I was her human garbage can. That's actually what she called me, because no matter what she made, I would try it. That was my way of getting recognition at the table. No matter what she made, where somebody else would turn up their nose, I would try everything she put out. So, and loved some of the things, because she would try some quirky things and, get away with it. But you always knew to make sure that you put the food on your plate. Obviously you had to finish that plate, but it wasn't coming back around for seconds, because it barely made it around the first time. And I know, like, I never paid attention to what my mother put on her plate, but I'm sure that's why it always worked, because she was the last one getting served. So she made sure that, everybody got something.
And that's why moms are the best people walking the planet, for that very reason, is they make sure everybody else gets taken care of.
Oh, yes.
What were some of the conversations you had? First of all, what's the age range between oldest and youngest of the kids?
17 years.
Oh, your parents were busy.
They were, and they had all 10. My mother, God bless her, 10 healthy pregnancies, no twins.
Wow. So what was the conversation like at the dinner table through the years?
I don't remember conversations. We were too busy eating. It was, you wanted to get that food in, but, there was always just conversations about, who was doing what, who was going where, whose friends were there visiting. We always had friends over, so they would take over the conversation and, share who they were, share about their families. It was always entertaining.
I'm trying to imagine the size room you need for a table that big.
Well, the table would turn when we had holidays, so that it could expand further, and you really couldn't get through the room. And it was, I don't know what you call it, but like you walked in the front door, you had the living room, dining room, kitchen, and the hallway went straight through from each room. So it just took up that whole middle section.
How many people were sleeping in each bedroom with 10 kids?
At one point, there were only 2 bedrooms in the house. It was a expanded cape, I think is what you call it, because they put the second floor on with dormers. And we had 7 kids in one room with 2 bunk beds and a crib. So my sister and I slept in a bed together. And then even when we graduated to our own room, we still slept in a bed together by choice because we were so used to sleeping together.
So you're number 8. What's the age difference between you and 7 and you and 9?
Most of them are all 18 months.
Okay.
I think both directions. That's how it is for me. There's like my oldest brother to my second oldest brother, who's the only one of us who has passed. There were 3 years, but that was because my father was in the Army.
5 boys, 5 girls?
No, 4 boys, 6 girls.
Oh, Dad had to pay for all those weddings?
No, actually. So, he was of the belief that you were paying your own way for school, we all worked, and actually all of my 9 siblings and myself all went to college. So we all paid our own way. We all figured out how to get there. He was a business owner. My youngest years, I remember him having 3 jobs when they had first bought the bowling alley, because he still had his job that was paying him. He had some other side job, and then he had the bowling alley. And then they segued into just the bowling alley. So I always watched them working. My parents had a great relationship, and she always went to work with him every night. They spent lots of time together. She would take care of the kids all day long, but at night she would spend a few hours with him closing up the bar at the bowling alley. And because it was about a mile from the house. It wasn't far. And, they taught us a great work ethic. So for me, and just like from our kids, from Mike and my 2 children, they're entrepreneurs at heart because that's how they were raised. Their mother always had her own business. Their father always had his own business. It's just the way you get taught, I guess.
How old were you when your folks bought the bowling alley?
I'm probably 10, maybe 8, somewhere in that range, because I know that I started bowling at 10. So there would have been no other reason than that's when the bowling alley came into existence. And we all worked there. We all had a job. So even when I turned 18, I'm giving my age away, but when I turned 18, because that was the legal age to drink, I didn't get served a drink. I got put behind the bar to work.
Were you guys the cool kids in the neighborhood because your parents owned the bowling alley?
Yeah, for a little bit. I mean, it definitely, we had friends that were friends because they wanted to bowl.
Oh, yeah. Did you, what was I going to ask you about the bowling alley? Oh, that's right. Were you guys the biggest family in the neighborhood?
We had one other that comes to mind immediately, the Ungermans, and I think they had 10. They might have had 11. And we both went to the same Catholic school too, which was not in our town. It was in the neighboring town, because back in the day, you went to the school based on your nationality, at least when it started. So the one in our town was more Italian, and the other one was not Italian. I don't think it was, like, I don't remember it having other, maybe it was Irish. Maybe that's what it was. But
so you weren't, okay, that's interesting. How did you guys get to school every day?
We walked miles and miles uphill. We actually did walk because the town I grew up in was only 1 square mile. So the church that was in town was right across the street from the bowling alley. So that was about a mile, but so was the other church. It was only a couple blocks across town, across the town line. So
I like your story to really let your kids know what a hard life you had is. Just say my school was 1 town over that I had to walk to, and just leave it at that.
Yes, we did. We did actually walk most of the time, except when it was inclement weather. And there's a funny story about the one time that I got hit by a car, and we were walking home from school. It was myself and my brother, older brother. I'm not sure who else was with us, but it was one of those where we were on the corner and he was teaching me the etiquette of crossing the street. And he said, you know, you look one way and I'll look the other, but he never told me which way to look. So I looked the same way that he did, and we got hit by a car. So the interesting thing is my mother was in the traffic like 6 cars back, realizing that she's like, it has to be my kids. I've got so many of them walking home from school. We were going across to the police station to get water, and some guy hit us, poor thing, because then he felt horrible. He came to the house. I remember him coming and bringing us gifts at the house afterward.
I assume you were okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Were you ready to stand up and fight?
Yeah. No, not quite, but I still fight my brother to this day because I keep blaming him. You didn't tell me which way to look.
And did the car hit you first?
I don't know. My memory's not that good. I don't remember.
We are here with Carol Komondy, U.S. Health Advisors. She is a member of RD20 Bridge to Success. They meet Tuesday mornings at 8:30 in Mebane. Right now it's on Zoom, but hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll all be back meeting again. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Folks, you need a good website. If people can't find you, they're not going to be able to use your product or service. One of the specialties Oak City Tech has is building websites that are functional and will drive business to you. So please go to oakcitytech.com and talk to them about building your website. All right, Carol, we talked about you're from New Jersey. We talked about your kids. You've got one daughter in Vermont, and your son is here, correct?
Yes, he is.
How many trips have you made to Vermont so far?
Only one, and she's been there 3 years, but it just hasn't, well, originally she wasn't living in a place, and I told her when she moved to Vermont that I wouldn't be going anytime from October all the way through to April. We did go in November, the first year we went. She has come here more, so that has filled the gap. We are trying to convince her that North Carolina is a great place to come, especially as a young adult. Come and start your life down here, and get a job. And
well, so she's coming back.
We're working on it.
Yeah, she's coming back to see you and Mike. She wants to come to the lake house. Absolutely.
Yes, she does. She does, and they're talking about coming for Christmas. So that'll
good.
Be nice.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Well, you also are a proud graduate of Montclair State.
Yes, I am.
And some decent alums from Montclair State. Hopefully this show will boost you to their level. We'll see. But two rather popular names, and one I think you and I talked about earlier that's close to my heart. But the first one is, I did not know Bruce Willis was an alum of Montclair State.
I didn't either.
How
exciting.
They have his picture on the website. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he graduated, but because I've researched other guests in other schools, and you have to read like attended so-and-so, but we're just going to call, John McClane there, everybody's favorite Christmas cop, a graduate of Montclair State. One of the more quotable people of all time, Yogi Berra.
I know.
Yep, love his lines. My favorite one is about restaurants. He said, nobody goes there anymore because you can't get a table. And then you and I have talked women's college basketball. I'm a University of Tennessee graduate, so my heart belongs to my Lady Vols, and I was there when Pat Summitt was there. But one of the legendary women's college basketball players going back to the 70s was Carol Blazejowski. Awesome Hall of Famer. But yeah, Bruce Willis, I had no clue that you and Bruce
have
something in common. So let your kids know that.
I will.
Don't know when he was there, but you can make up a story,
Well, I'm going to go check that out and see. Who knows? Maybe we had a class or two together.
Yeah. And you talked about getting into the health advisor world because you truly want to help people, but you spent 30 years basically in the weight loss consultant world.
Yes, and you weren't supposed to say 30 years because then
Well,
you're
you
aging
started,
me.
yeah, at 20 and a half, you were an
Yeah,
intern before you
yeah, there
graduated
you go.
college.
There you go. So yes, so as I said, my father, um, he insisted we went to college. And with me, I wanted to study nutrition when I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school and I wanted to study nutrition. And he said, absolutely not. You're going to the county college, community college, you're going for business, you get your degree. I was really good in accounting. In high school, the accounting teacher actually used to take my test and grade the rest of the class. So it just had a knack for numbers. It was my thing. And so I went for business and I got my associate's degree in business. And then I started working just for, a small business. I was their bookkeeper and then got into a law firm and was their office administrator and, was working my way. And I really wanted to go to school for nutrition. And so now we're talking, I don't know, 5 years in, and I put myself back to school at Montclair State to study food and nutrition because I just couldn't wait. And I got straight A's because I loved it. It just was all about what I'd always wanted to learn. So I took that degree and ended up having the business that we purchased fall on my lap while I was in my last semester at college. And so I never went the route of getting the registered dietitian license because to me, I was buying a business. It made more sense to just work for myself and make money. And we started our family shortly thereafter. So it was fabulous because I could help people lose weight, get healthy, teach them all about basic nutrition, and bring my kids with me if I wanted to, or work our schedule. Mike and I always worked our schedule, so one of the two of us was always home with the kids. They were they were with grandma occasionally. My mother lived very close to where my business was, so she would watch my kids for a little bit. But we always would just adjust the schedule. So I would go in nights, he would go in early morning, or vice versa, and made sure that we were there for the kids. And it was fun.
What were some of the changes over the time you were doing weight loss and helping people? Just the mindsets, the foods, the diets, everything like that. How did that evolve and change?
I think the biggest change is that it became so many fads in society came out that people started thinking they could do it on their own. They knew what they were doing. And, I'm going to bring this back full circle to BNI because what it really is all about, just like BNI, is what I was doing with weight loss is I was your personal coach, just like you are as a business coach. I was the person that was helping you because nobody else was really going to sit there and work through all those food issues with you. And why are you eating at 10 o'clock at night? And why are you getting up in the middle of the night and having snacks you don't even know about the next day, except for the wrappers that you left? So I equate it the same way as any other coach, or in BNI, that group that we have that's specifically there, because most of us are not necessarily solopreneurs, but working for ourselves. And we need those people that speak to what the benefit is of having, having that sales force. So I can go to my BNI and talk to them about, what I'm looking for. What do I really need to work on? And I feel their honesty is going to come back to me with, we'll do this and we'll do this and we'll do this. So it's just like any other coaching, just like with weight loss. I wasn't doing it for the person as much as lots of people would say, oh, I want to take you home with me. I was helping you work through. So, okay, pretend you took me home with you. What can I do for you at home? So you're finding yourself snacking on things because you're bored. Go set the kitchen timer. Let it go for 10 minutes. If you're still hungry and you still want it, do another 10 minutes. Let's see how long, play a game. Let's see how long we can work our way. So it's just teaching the tools to help that person, and so over the years, the biggest thing was that influx of more people thinking they didn't need to learn basic nutrition, that there was a fad that was going to help them, whether it was that cabbage soup diet or, don't get me started on the keto diet, but there's lots of things out there that just go against basic nutrition. Feed your body. It's fuel.
Now, you had to walk a fine line because while you were helping people lose weight and lead a better lifestyle, your husband owned Dunkin' Donuts franchises.
Yeah, so we had a market on the economy. When people were trying to lose weight, they were coming to me, and when they were indulging, they were going to him. So it worked perfectly. We would just stamp the bottom of the dozen box with a coupon to Diet Center, and when they lost 10 pounds, I'd give them a coupon back to Dunkin' Donuts. That's not true, but that was what we joked about all the time.
Oh, sure. When did you have time to help or work in the franchise world while you had your weight loss business?
So mine was a franchise as well. It was actually a Diet Center franchise, and they were quite the franchise back in the day. They were the second weight loss industry, first being Weight Watchers, and Diet Center actually came as a spin-off idea from Weight Watchers because the woman who started it, Sybil Ferguson, wanted to do the same healthy food, but with one-on-one coaching instead of groups.
And did you find that it took a while for people to embrace acknowledging they need that and then being able to go on a plan and follow it?
No, people who know they need it, know they need it. And it's still the same. It's even like with working out. People who know the benefit of a coach are going to work with a personal trainer or go to a gym. It's different personality styles. So that person, and I'm sure it's probably the same way with you with the business coaching, the person who realizes they need that coaching, they are the ones that are going to benefit from it. There were people along the way who would try it and they were not really suited to being coached. So I don't know, some people needed more of a quick fix. You can't help everybody.
Was one spouse telling the other spouse, go see Carol?
Probably.
Was this in your hometown?
It was actually the town over, so there was a little bit of a distance. But, I even tell the story, I was always had to be aware of what was in my shopping cart, because if I was I would generally stop on the way home from work. And if I was in the town where my center was, I always had to be concerned about what people saw in my cart. But it's funny because it turns out, even to this day, when I look at my own shopping cart, anybody can critique me and look at it. There's a couple of things that I will indulge in, and yet I'm the kind of person who can open up a bag of Fritos, have a handful, and that bag of Fritos will probably be in there for about 3-4 weeks if I was the only one opening and going into the bag of Fritos, because I have very good self-control that's been taught over the years, because I had times where I didn't have the self-control and I would eat too many sweets. So I would go into a store and buy like a half a dozen candy bars because I didn't know which one I wanted first. But I taught myself with, the self-control of it. The food doesn't control you. You have to control it. And so I made it mandatory to have the chocolate bar every day. And within 4, 5, 6 days, I didn't want it anymore, but I made it mandatory. So I kept doing it until it got to the point where I really could stop, because it didn't talk to me at all. It was like, oh gosh, I have to eat that piece of candy again. So, and that's where I learned that self-control, even with the Fritos. I never overindulge in it. Not to say I'm perfect and there aren't some things I will overindulge in, but when I buy a bag of anything, whether it's candy or some kind of quote unquote junk food, I have a great sense of control, and the bulk I don't shop in the middle of the grocery store. So the bulk of the stuff in my carts are always going to be just healthier things. It just, I think the good Lord brings you to things in life that you were meant to do. And that's where I was with nutrition all those years. And it's exactly where I am with health insurance right now. It speaks to me. The company that I represent, we love healthier people. We reward healthier people. So it ties in perfectly.
Well, you're stronger than a lot of us are going through the grocery store on that rough day and thinking like, let me just sneak down this aisle. So, but it's hard to do. But I like the timer on the stove.
Yeah. Oh,
That's interesting.
that is one of my best. It really is, because it works. It's really, it gets back to what I said about with the candy bars. You can't let the food call you. You have to control the food. And the way to control the food is make it a mandatory part of your day. So whatever it is that you find that struggle with, if it's chocolate cake, if it's cheesecake, whatever it is, make it a mandatory part of that diet, of that routine. And before long, you will be the one winning.
We are here with Carol Komondy, U.S. Health Advisor. She is in RD20 Bridge to Success. They meet Tuesday mornings at Mebane. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. And if you need anything, folks, in the digital world, please call them. And also talk to them about an email campaign, because you want to get your customers, you want to be able to talk to them. They can help you do that. So please go to oakcitytech.com and tell Drago that we said hi. Let's revisit your mom for a minute. One of the funner things I get to do on this show is research the guests. And there's a lot of Google stories about you and your name. And the gold doesn't really come to about the fourth page of Google, because most people read the first page, check out your LinkedIn, you're on Facebook, okay, maybe Instagram, then they may find your business bio, and then they're done with that. But I go into page 4 and 5, and I think on page 6, found some stuff about your mom. She was a player up in town, wasn't she?
Oh, yes. Oh, most definitely.
It sounded like, whether it was politics, the Board of Health, the church, it sounded like people came to her for help on what's going on in the area, isn't it?
So yeah, I think the best way to start this story is, and gosh, I wish Donald was here to tell you this about Grandma's funeral, because the line at the funeral parlor, my mother died at 91 in 2012. And you would have thought that there was some movie star or political huge person, because it was raining out and the line was blocks to get in to view mom at the funeral. So, and Donald, at that time, how old was he? I don't know. He's 23 now. So he still tells the story. They couldn't get over it. The grandkids were like, wow, like, it's just crazy how many people are here. And yeah, she had an impact on a lot of lives. My mother never met a stranger. We tell the best story about, so after my dad died very young. He was 63. So in 1984, 85, something like that. But so she lived by herself all of those years, well, with me for a little bit, but as a single woman for many years. And she traveled to visit her kids. And I've got siblings in Hawaii, Oregon, Chicago, Kentucky, you name it, all over. But so on this one trip, she was in San Francisco, and it was a layover to go to Oregon, and the flight got canceled. I don't remember what happened, but my mother went home with a couple that she was sitting next to in the airport, because they were going on the same flight the next day. And they're like, oh, Peggy, come home, stay with us. We'll bring you back. So she just went home with total strangers. They weren't strangers to her anymore. She had this knack. And to this day, Mike, if there was one thing that I really want to work on doing, she made everybody feel like they were the most important person in the world. and she would remember details about every single person she met. So it was a gift. It was just a gift that she loved people.
Was there a story that stuck out to you that somebody pulled you aside after she had passed, either that night or another night, just say, hey, let me tell you a quick story about your mom?
No, not actually. So I was blessed to have spent the most amount of time, believe it or not, with 10 kids. I lived with her in my late 20s when all my other siblings were gone. My father passed away. I pretty much moved back home. I was not really out of the house, but sort of just starting to move out. And I moved back home instead. So we spent a great deal of time together, renovated the house together, did a lot. And then in her last weeks, she lived with us, with my kids and I and Mike, because she wasn't doing well, we knew, and she had to be somewhere. So we had the best, only one step into the house to get in our house. So we had the best house, but I would have taken her anyway. It was fabulous. So none of the stories that stick out because it just who she always was. She was always doing for others. She was always involved. She had this one best friend who was the crotchetiest old woman. And I would always say to my mother, Mom, why are you even friends with her? She's just so nasty to you. And she said, she has no friends. She needs someone. And that's exactly who she was. It was just for everybody else. The goodness of her heart was for everybody else.
So when you moved back into the house, it was just two of you at a dinner table now. So you could eat as much as you wanted, right?
Well, yeah. And that's why I'm the one who always talks about what a great cook my mother was. The rest of the kids think she was a horrible cook. And my mother and I played with food in the kitchen. She taught me how to play with food. And I teach my son how to play with food. I hope I've taught my daughter enough how to play with food. Because it's really about, if you like something that's decadent, like buffalo macaroni and cheese, okay, buffalo chicken mac and cheese, something like that. I take that spin and make it healthier. I made jalapeno poppers yesterday that were lower fat, healthier version, but they taste fabulous. So it's always been about, like, she and I used to play in the kitchen all the time, and we both would cook. So that was the first room we renovated was the kitchen, because we needed it to work for us better. So
did she walk anywhere in town without somebody not stopping her to say hi?
Never. And she had, the corner store, like like you said that about the stories, my mother would not just walk to the corner store. She would drive to the corner store. They knew her very well. She would go buy her lottery tickets. She would buy lottery tickets for, like, the grandkids for their birthdays and stuff, and, all that fun stuff. She had quite the lottery winnings, and also somewhat of a little bit of money she owed them when she was her last 6 weeks when she had taken ill. We had to make sure she got her lottery tickets all purchased. She had a standing order, so he would keep ordering them for her even when she wasn't there. So that was their agreement.
That says a lot about a small town, doesn't it?
It sure does. It definitely does.
Now, Mike found another article where Mike ran for a public office.
Oh, he did indeed.
2012.
He's such a sweetheart. He did it as a favor to his sister-in-law. So
okay. What's the story?
He changed parties and everything just to run for her. Well, they needed somebody in the seat to run against somebody who had been in the position for years on the other party. And so he did, and he didn't have to win. Like, that wasn't the goal, actually. There was never a thought that he was going to win. It was really just about putting somebody up against him to kind of put him back in his place a little, to show him that he was not as invincible as he thought. So
did that work?
Mike had fun. It did. Because Mike actually put up a really good run for somebody who came out of nowhere. So it was amazing. And I forget the numbers, but you probably know them better than I do. It was amazing how close he came with, like, there was nothing. There was no funds put out for his election campaign at all. There were no signs. There was nothing done for it. And he gave the guy a good run for his money. So.
But that was his only run for anything. Was that enough for him?
No, he did too, because he did run in the town too.
Oh,
so
okay.
that was on the state level, but he did a town, same thing.
A township committee is the one story I found.
Oh, yeah. Oh, township committee. No, so you didn't see the one. He ran for, I forget what it was, because it's not, I always get forgive my ignorance, I get them confused. It was the state senate.
Okay.
I think that's what it was, where he had to change his affiliation to actually register as a Democrat. He was an independent. So he had to register as a Democrat to run against a long-seated Republican. That my sister is the Democratic chair of Somerset County in New Jersey. So he was doing a favor for her, and in both instances, actually.
And how did the local race turn out?
I don't remember. And because he actually was involved with both parties over the years. So I know when he ran as the Democrat, they didn't win. But again, it was really more about just making sure that the township knew there were two parties. Yeah. Okay. Which it often is when you're in a small situation like that. It's just about bringing the awareness that, people think different ways. So let's hear everybody's ideas. Let's not be closed-minded.
I hope he reminds your sister every now and then just what he did for her, right?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
We were talking before we came on the air, we were talking about your involvement in your church, Holy Family Catholic Church, but you said they're not open. You guys are driving to Virginia?
We are. So we live in God's country, and it's a half hour in probably four different directions to a Catholic church. And when we first moved to North Carolina, by the grace of God, we ended up in the church we're in, and we were meant to be there in Holy Family in Hillsborough. We went the first day that we went, and we went in and we introduced ourselves to then Father Mark. And we're like, it's our first day here. And Father Mark's like, no way, it's my first day too. It was, but it was sort of, to us, we were like, okay, well, we have to stay. This is great. He was so much fun. He was just a great way to really be introduced back into Catholicism in North Carolina. And I say back, I won't get into it. We had things that happened. Both of our kids went to Catholic school, and, so we were a little laxed over the past years. But then, so COVID hits. I'm on the parish council. I am the only one on the parish council that wants to start trying to figure out how we're going to open things up way back in April and May. And we finally are now having that conversation as our last meeting. It's not easy because we're a very small church. So where the bigger church that I'm traveling to in Virginia, it's right over the border in Danville, Virginia, they house probably 300 people on a regular Sunday, like prior to COVID. Their max capacity is at 100, and they're seating about 50, just people who want to come. They're not turning anyone away. They're taking names and numbers for anybody who comes. So there's tracking going on, and it's so well done. So when we had our parish council meeting, and it was brought up that we want to start looking at this, I right away said, well, I'll be the one that taps you on the shoulder and says, I'm sorry, you have to have a mask on. You're not allowed to take it off. There's a church in Greensboro that will let you go in without a mask. By all means, you're welcome to go, but we need to make sure that we're staying as safe as possible because we're too small. So there is that. You've got to be careful when you really, we have one priest, we have a lot of elderly. So we're gonna work on it. I don't know how soon that's gonna happen, but we're working on getting to that point.
Well, I wish you luck with that, Carol. Carol Komondy, U.S. Health Advisor. Wish you luck with getting your word out to help people that need insurance, that they know that they have options. I know with open enrollment coming up, you will be very busy, but we appreciate you joining us on our show today.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
I know there's some more small town New Jersey stories there that we'll have to talk about another time.
We have to have a one-to-one.
Sounds good. I like it. Folks, we'll see you next time on our Triangle BNI show.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.